Okay, sorry for dragging this out. It's just there's a lot to cover here. I meant to cover this in two videos. It's not enough time, so we needed to add the third video. This one will be somewhat shorter than the previous two, though. So we left off. We had only a single one more of the groups to cover, and that would be the audit transformations. So we covered the business intelligence. We covered the row transformations, the row set transformations, and then the split and join transformations. Final group, the audit transformations. And thankfully, there's only two. It's very small. This will add either auditing information or count the number of rows. Okay? The audit transform, I use both of these actually very extensively. You saw the row count. This can be your faux destination. If you remember watching those videos a little bit earlier in the chapter, we talked about how to create mock destinations or fake or faux destinations. This is what you would use. You simply tell it to consume all of the rows and store the count in a variable, and that's it. That's all you got to do. And then later on, you could come back and add whatever destination logic you needed to. And it allowed you to create your source and focus on the transformations. The audit will add additional columns to your output. And I put down here, right here, this is an example. So I've dragged an audit transformation into my data flow, and it asks me, what do you want the new column name? So this is a new column name, and you could have maybe categorized this as a row transformation, because you remember that row transformations add a new column to the output. Well, that's what this one does. So maybe it's miscategorized, I don't know. But you're adding a new column that are based on, over here on the right side, these are the system variables that are in SSIS, what we call the environmental variables. You could see the package ID, the machine name, who's running it, for example. And that allows you to audit the execution of the package. So if you just wanted to add some auditing information to a table for reporting or whatever, bam, just drag that guy on there. Not that extensible, but it is helpful to have that auditing information. I will also say, though, that a lot of that auditing information will be stored in the SQL Server itself. So don't over audit. Now let's get to the lookup point. Remember in the last video I kept saying, yeah, in a couple of slides in this video I'll cover the lookups. Well, kind of got pushed to this video. I apologize about that. But let's talk about what a lookup actually is. I know a lot of people are very familiar with lookups, but some people, this is kind of their first foray into what lookups are. And I will say that if you didn't understand joins and how I drew the little Venn diagrams out, maybe lookup values will seem more logical to you. You use a lookup when you have related values in different sources and you want to use one source's value to look up or find its matching values in the other source. It may help you to pause the screen and read that a couple of times here, as I'm going to go to the next page and I'm going to explain. We've got two sources. We have one of the things that we should notice immediately as query writers, as DBAs, whatever, is that we have the product ID matching. So it matches data types and it matches values between them. So what we want to have in the end is we want a data set. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to blue. We want a data set that has product ID, name, is enabled, manufacturer ID, and I should have moved that up, sorry. But you can see that these values come from over here. These guys come from DB2. And then this guy, we'll choose my last color here, comes from Excel. So I am going to use this column's value as a lookup to say, hey, what's the manufacturer for product ID A75354? Oh, it's 15764. And so now in my output, I have this value here. Now I'm running out of room. For the product ID, for the name, for the is enabled, and for the manufacturer ID. So I have a 4-column output, for example, that's coming from 2 sources. And I used a lookup transformation so that I could look up the value from one data source to another. Now there are alternatives to the lookup. You do not have to do it this way. You can do this in a join. If you are in the same server, this is a really great performance tip. If you're on the same server, just in different databases in the SQL Server world, write a join. Do not do this fancy lookup transformations. Lookups are slow. It's very slow to log in. This can be done better by writing a single query that did a join, because that's all this is. A lookup-based transformation is a join. So you can do these lookups, but there are probably faster ways to do them. But there's probably not a faster way to do this one, because I can't join from Excel to DB2. So the lookup transformation is ideal for a situation like this. So that's the idea of a lookup right there. You've got one set of data over here, so DB2. And you need to look up to find values that match that in another set. Now, the final transformation that we will cover, just like it's the final transformation, or the final source and the final destination, is that script component. Okay? It can be a transformation as well. More on that in Chapter 7. And just like with sources and destinations, you can write your own. You can buy transformations from other companies. There are some fantastic companies out there that make different transformations that you would use day in and day out. And instead of having to write them up yourself, you could just drag and drop them onto the interface. So I hope you kind of got a good idea from an overview standpoint of what's what each source, destination, and transformation does. And now let's dig down and start doing some of these. So no more lecture. Let's get out of lecture mode. I'll see you in the next video with a computer here, and we'll actually write some packages.